What strange idea worked? Because people are weird. Wikipedia. It took a long time to become a high quality source, but the desire of people to correct misinformation is so strong that once there was a high volume of information, the quality gradually surpassed that of traditional encyclopedias. It's amazing that it worked. I remember writing most of the article on Jackalope and a good chunk of the one on mosh pits back in 2003, when they were both stubs. Is this what it's like to be famous? There's a store here in Seattle, on Aurora Avenue, called the Purple Store. Everything they sell is purple. It's been there for years. Sales skyrocketed when Prince died. Not even joking. Over here in Minneapolis, sometimes it's hard to tell if something is a Vikings gift shop or a Prince gift shop. Twitch Plays Pokemon. Twitch Plays Pokemon was beautiful. Taking forever to cut trees, spending 12 hours trying to cross that one ledge, making it all the way through Team Rocket's Idiot, and beating Giovanni, only to dig out, before nabbing the Silphscope, Bird Jesus and Helix and all the other Pokemon, and that final successful Elite Four attempt after hours and hours of grinding against them. I remember feeling pretty sentimental when the whole thing ended. Spending like a whole day to get to Giovanna's gym because everyone kept falling off that small ledge at the turn was by far the most entertainment I've had on an interactive stream. Googling the number 241,543,903 will result in tons of images of people with their heads in freezers. Somebody out there had a dream, and now it's a reality. Googling 4,636,228,756 results in the same, except this time it's washing machines. Where do you learn these things? Selling products by ending the price with $0.99 instead of clean whole numbers. My mind automatically rounds it now. If it says 14.99 in my head it's 15. They can't get inside my head. Yes. Fundraising money to make potato salad. It took us 3 days to make that potato salad. 3 days. I was at the drink booth giving out tokens. That was a great day in Columbus. Howard Stern made a fortune talking to strippers on the radio, where you can't see them. To be fair, he did a lot more than talking to strippers to make his fortune. He's an entertainer and a very talented interviewer. People don't keep listening for the bimbos. It's the antics and legitimate celeb interviews. Honey, hey, look, a nest of flying thumbtacks. Bet they are hiding something. This should be the only acceptable way to describe a bee. Sting beans. Grey Goose alcohol wasn't selling well, so they just tripled the price and sales went through the roof. Everybody thought, it's more expensive, it must be better and really fancy. Also, Grey Goose made their bottles so skinny and tall, so they would have to be placed on the top shelf. That's really clever. Houston Airport got a lot of complaints that it took baggage too long to get to the baggage claim and people had to wait a long time. They moved the baggage claim farther away from where you get off the airplane, and even though it took just as long, because people had to walk there, they didn't complain. It's why elevators tend to have shiny surfaces in the waiting areas. If you put a mirror by an elevator, people don't worry as much about wait times, because they can look at themselves. We really are just monkeys in shoes. A million pixel web page. That dude is a genius. But people who put ads, they're weird. The people who put the first ads, they sure are. Anyone who joined after a certain threshold was broken probably made a great deal. It was $1 per pixel, start to finish. In a psychology course we were taking, we were tasked with finding a way to improve the listening ability, tested through a multiple choice test after a lecture, of little kids. What worked? Blindfolding them and letting them doodle as they listened. The doodles? Meaningless. However, they felt like they had freedom, and the only thing of slight interest was the teacher, so our class scored on average, I think, don't quote me on this, 5% higher than the other group's classes. Our class scored on average 5% higher than the other group's classes. Lily Yo-Yo Need Godget 2017. You motherfricker. People in other countries are often more willing to be nicer to foreigners than to their own kind. Traveling around a small city in China last year, my friends and I were looking for a hotel willing to hold on to our luggage for us while we did some sightseeing around the city for the day. This can be hit or miss in China. Some hotels are willing to do it, some aren't. Except that day, we got turned down by about 3 or 4 hotels before we started to worry that we wouldn't be able to do much sightseeing. Being fluent in Mandarin, we suddenly thought, what if we decided to do a psychological experiment and play the role of helpless foreigner and see if things went differently? Sure enough, the next hotel we visited walked right up to the front desk, and as soon as we started speaking English, the receptionist looked at her cowhawkers. I don't know what they are saying. My English is so bad. To my surprise, they pulled out a phone, called up their off-duty manager, and handed the phone to me. She spoke English, and so I explained to her what we wanted. She immediately said yes, of course we can hold on to your luggage for you. Enjoy your time sightseeing. This experience alone speaks volumes, but I've seen plenty of other stuff in my travels to suggest that locals can be downright nasty to their own countrymen sometimes, and those same people often are willing to pull out all the stops to accommodate foreign visitors. I have no idea why this is. Probably due to the perceived helplessness of being a foreigner somewhere else leads to the locals being empathetic to your situation. If you are seen as a local or whatever, then most people will say you should have been responsible and had a plan beforehand. True, I guess as a local they think you should know your crap and shouldn't need help, or maybe they think you'd have ulterior motives. But still, even in cases where their own countrymen could be considered foreign, from another province or opposite side of the country, people are still usually reluctant to help too much. I'm speaking for countries in E and SE Asia that I've traveled to. I think this trend is actually reversed in a lot of Western countries. USA, from what I've heard, the French can be hostile towards foreigners, etc. The Fumbler Ruski play in American football. For people who don't follow the sport / people who aren't American, the Fumbler Ruski is a play that has been illegal in the NFL for years and was banned in the NCAA in 1992 because it is too effective. For those of you who have seen the popular 90s movie The Little Giants, the annexation of Puerto Rico is a Fumbler Ruski. Essentially, the play works by having the quarterback intentionally place the ball on the ground. This is technically a fumble by the center's feet after taking the handoff snap, then faking a running play in one direction. While this is happening, a guard, another offensive lineman, picks the ball up and runs in the other direction. As dumb as it sounds, the play works because it's almost impossible to read a Fumbler Ruski as it's happening. Obstructed vision of what the quarterback does combined with quick timing of the intentional fumble means that you can't really see that he's done it. A defense would pretty much need to know it's coming to stop it. By the time the defense realizes what's happened, the ball can get pretty far downfield. Depending on how close to the end zone they were, it often results in a touchdown. They made that illegal? That sounds awesome. There's a legal variant called the Boomer Ruski, where the ball is handed off between the legs. It's also technically still legal in the NFL, but the intentional fumble has to go backwards from whoever is holding it when it happens. Electing a billionaire to fix the system that made him a billionaire. You know, I've never heard it put quite like this. It's what they did. I work customer service and I have to say that's the most special kind of stupid I've ever seen. And I had to tell someone that they had to put their cup under the spigot to receive soda. When I first started writing Android apps, I asked myself, what do people really want? Nudes is the obvious answer, but they already have lots of ways to send nudes. I'm not going to do better than any of 100 messaging apps on my own. They want to send nudes, and for there to be no trace of them to later end up on a crappy website. So I started working out an app where you could send pictures on the basis that they could only be seen by the intended receiver or receivers. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this just isn't a solvable problem. Sure, maybe I could override the screenshot functionality. They could still just take a picture of their phone screen with some other camera. Can't be done, I says to myself. And I forget about it. The next year, Snapchat blew up. Turns out people don't need actual security. Out of sight, out of mind is nothing. But it's enough. That had not occurred to me. They need the appearance of security. The reality is apparently unimportant. Also known as security theater. You put on a security play. No one really cares to wonder if it's real. A man decided he was going to try to get a house by making a series of trades that started with him trading one red paperclip. He succeeded in his quest to trade from a paperclip to a house. In Argentina, 15 years ago, a TV program called CQC used the same technique to make a charity action. I know, they surely took it from someone somewhere. For example, they interviewed a doctor in a hospital in need, saying what things they lack and how they try to work even in those conditions, and at the end of the interview the reporter asked for a small object, a pen, a paperclip, something like that. Then, they went to a certain corner of a city and asked the people passing by to exchange it with something more valuable. It wasn't so amazing, because at the end they would go to a big company asking for donations disguised as exchanges. Selling used underwear out of vending machines. Where can I find one of these? Japan. Captain Cook noticed one day at port that sailors debarking from Spanish vessels weren't suffering from scurvy like sailors on British ships were. He couldn't figure it out until one day he noticed the food rations being loaded onto the Spanish ships and saw that sauerkraut were a part of their meal plans while at sea, whereas they were completely absent from British meal plans and diets in general. How do you get someone to eat sauerkraut while at sea if it is not part of their diet? You introduce it into the officers' meals only, of course. And then you have the officers dine next to the rest of the rank and file, where everyone can see the officers eating sauerkraut, which they cannot have. From there, you wait for the rest of the sailors to ask why they can't have the new mystery food, and then you agree to compromise and allow all sailors to have sauerkraut once per week as a reward for a diligent week's work. I don't know if this is true, but I remember hearing a story like this about tomatoes. The local townspeople didn't want to buy tomatoes, so the local king/baron made the local merchants stop selling tomatoes for a while, so he can grow some in the royal gardens. The intended effect was that eventually the people would see tomatoes as a royal fruit and buy it when it came to market. Unfortunately, the story goes, the people were mad at the king/baron for hoarding the fruit and killed him. Sucking milk out of other animals and drinking it. Are you telling me someone sucked milk out of a cow then spat it out into a milk box? Yeah, someone. Unboxing videos. Can't understand for the life of me why they are so popular. At least partly it's to satisfy the people who don't get packages in their own mail, so they can have the satisfaction of opening boxes by proxy. Giving your credit card info and address to a website online in hopes they send a product to your house in a short period of time. I still remember as a kid convincing my mom to let me use her card to make the family's first online purchase, a pinball game. She was so resistant and paranoid to put her info out there, and Dad was actually mad after and was convinced we'd been scammed for a week until the game actually came. And now I can almost literally push a single button and have an 18-inch rubber cock delivered to my house within 2 days. Technology may have gone too far. Clicker games. The Last of Us. The Snuggie. It's just putting a bathrobe on backwards. Not a fan of it, but apparently it's great for people that have to use wheelchairs. It doesn't slip like a blanket, covers a lot of the body easily while still allowing use of hands, doesn't have the discomfort of a thick collar or backward sleeves that just wearing a robe backwards has, and is easier to remove for users and caregivers than coats or robes worn frontwards. Most 1800 daytime TV products are originally designed for disabled people. Once you realize this, they make much more sense and you stop asking who would buy this to any given item. Injecting yourself with a dead virus to protect yourself from live versions of that same virus. I know to most of us this process and how it works makes sense, but imagine how weird it must have been a long time ago. Body, I have found a dead enemy. Reverse engineer it to kill living enemy. Granted the natural way was the same thing, but with the step I don't know what this foreign crap is. Kill it. That Goat Simulator game took off. Didn't see that one coming. I played that game for all of 5 minutes before I got bored. But my 12-year-old son, Jesus Christ, he plays it non-stop. I swear I saw his goat battling cyborgs in space. Boaty McBoatface. Plumbuses. Everyone has one, but no one knows how they work. Really weird. I have one, but never used it. Not in they. It's supposed to be used, I guess. I always wondered how they made plumbuses. Hey, you know this essential liquid to life that we can get from a faucet in our house? Like almost literally for free, despite all the work and technology that went into making it clean and safe to drink. Let's bottle it and sell the piss out of it. Have you ever lived somewhere with a 24/7 boil order? Makes it difficult to get a drink in short order. Like for cooking or cleaning, sure, boil a pot, but bottled water is much better for just drinking. Another example is Central Iowa, which has high levels of nitrates due to all of the fertilizer used. Requesting things based on your username. I've always been curious. Do usernames like yours actually work? I've gotten one picture of a knee so far, but that's it. But there's always hope. Caesarean section. C-section. I can just see the first time. Trust me guys. I've got this all figured out. I'm going to cut the baby out and everyone's gonna be fine. Unfortunately, there was quite a bit of time between the first person who thought to cut the baby out and the first person who thought, hey, maybe there's a way to cut the baby out and not kill the mother in the process. I'm so glad I gave birth in modern times. Ancient women were tough as nails, at least the ones that survived it. Movies like Paranormal Activity. There's no villain, or really an enemy at all, just an invisible force that randomly opens cupboards and drags people down the stairs by their legs. The villain is the demon and the grown mother who made a contract with it, and it freaks with people to scare them, weaken their will and possess them, so that it can claim the soul of the firstborn male. There's 4, maybe 5, of them attempting to piece together a plot. Burning Man. Say what you want about it, but Burning Man is the most American thing ever. First of all, you've got a group of people who value their time above everything else, so much so that they often give up on the default world entirely forever and end up being vagabond volunteers for various organizations for the rest of their lives. These people want to radically change their minds about all kinds of things in their lives and interact with people who are willing to do the same, not just tag along like some spectator. Next, you've got an organized infrastructure, often made up of those same individuals, that manages to establish and maintain roads, keep clean thousands of toilets, provide medical help, distribute ice, collect and send mail, coordinate zones for burning things, deal with influx and exit of road traffic, run an airport and a DMV, a police rangers force, monitor activity near and past the trash fence, and 100 other things I probably don't even know. Then you've got organizations not officially within the Burning Man organization that work within to provide all sorts of entertainment, knowledge, and things to do. From big name music artists to some dude who just rocks the pan flute. There are giant dance halls and bars, crazy experimental art installations, skee ball that's on fire, lectures, and discussions, and oh so much more. All of this for a full week with no profitable motive other than the intrinsic nature of doing something you want and doing it well. Finally, it's all impermanent. Nothing stays, everything goes. It's the embodiment of the American spirit to attempt to try something to maybe have a better life, but after the burn ends, it is acknowledged that those endeavors are only permanent in our minds, in our collective memories. Where we can live up to our accomplishments and own up to our mistakes is the domain where work exists year round as we gather our wits to decide what we want to do next year during that one specific week in the back rock desert. You forget the undercover federal agents chilling like narcs. Gonna be chilling. Taking Bikini Bottom and pushing it somewhere else. Facebook. Social media in general. I think it speaks a lot to the human ability to be lonely, even in the general company of others. Social media works because people have a compulsive need to be liked by everyone. I find that being liked on the internet helps me deal with not getting along with and being disliked by people in real life. Goes back to redditing for upvotes. Cooking shows. It makes sense now, but when they launched, they were lambasted by everyone because in the pre-DVR era, who would be able to follow along in real time? Of course, the whole thing makes sense now, because it's more of an educational approach than an interactive one, but at the same time, it also feels like a great tease to the audience. So, you want me to pay for a show, where we film you cooking food the person doesn't eat, and you talk to them via the camera how tasty it is, and you don't pause to have them follow along, and you speed up the cook and prep times, so a 3-hour recipe looks like it takes 22 minutes. That sounds like a strip club for food, without the benefit of touch or smell. Making cake mixes require more work, increased sales. Betty Crocker cake mixes weren't selling well when they were first introduced. Women felt that, because they weren't doing anything other than adding water, that they weren't working hard enough. The company then made it so you had to add eggs as well, and they started flying off the shelves. Febreze. Hear me out, because the story is kind of interesting. When P&G first marketed/tested Febreze, they couldn't get people to get excited about it. They did some in-home testing, where they gave home ER owners, and especially pet owners, a case of Febreze. After a month or two with the product, some P&G reps visited these home ER owners. In one such instance, they visited a woman who had 7 or 8 cats, and the whole house just smelled like cat piss. They sat down, trying not to pinch their noses, and asked the woman if she was using the product at all, and what she thought of it. She said, "Well, I started to use 1 bottle, but I found I really didn't need it." Stunned, the reps asked, "Have you ever thought to use it to manage the smell of your cats?" The woman, completely earnestly, replied, "I tell you, it's the strangest thing. My cats don't smell." So they realized the problem. People don't notice smells in their own homes. So, that's an example of a protect not working, because people are weird. Here's how P&G made it work. Not to be defeated by silly consumers claiming they didn't need their product, P&G conducted further research. What they found was that people were much more likely to use Febreze if it was part of a routine. So they marketed it as part of a cleaning process. Febreze after vacuuming, Febreze after making the bed, etc. Needless to say, it worked. And while people today will use Febreze as the primary method of cleaning their home, P&G had to exploit a human weirdness in order to get people to buy it in the first place. I started an ASMR channel and have 10k subscribers. My most popular video is doing mouth sounds in the ears of a mannequin head. Yup, I've been a fan of ASMR for about a year now. It's something I don't share with people. Yeah, I'll listen to people tap on random crap to help me fall asleep, but it really works. Twitter. I still have no idea what the frick Twitter is for. Complaining about politics. The game. It's the dumbest thing, but it works. If you were aware of the game, me mentioning it just made you lose it. I also lost it by bringing it up. It only works because the brain, language, and logic can be weird sometimes. People can supposedly refuse to play, but here's the thing, the way it's set up they really can't refuse. They are aware of the game, they are aware of the rules, therefore they are always playing it, even if they don't want to. Some part of your brain will go off when you remember the stupid game, and by acknowledging, even just subconsciously to yourself, that the game is a thing, then you lose and start all over again. I hate you so much right now. Hoverboards. I don't see the appeal at all. They don't hover, call them their real name. Reaping karma from rehashing the same general format. Magicians. We all know it's not real magic, but we are impressed nonetheless. We are more impressed that they have the sleight of hand and the calmness that's required to pull off those tricks. They also need to be really good at being entertaining and funny. Look, you take the stuff that comes out of the gland near this beaver's ass. Then, you add it to food and it tastes just like vanilla. Don't ask how I found out, just do it. Didn't we donate to dig a hole for Cards Against Humanity? People bought literal crap from them too. Most recently people paid for literally nothing. Blue Apron. It's easily as / more expensive as eating out. When you eat out you don't shop, prep, cook, or clean. But I hate planning meals. That's the least intensive part. I love digging holes in the summer at noon for 16 hours straight, but I hate getting the shovel out of the shed. If only I could pay 2 times the price of a new shovel for someone to get the shovel out of the shed. I can only imagine the weird looks the first person who thought of taxidermy received, but evidently he found someone else weird enough to agree with his pitch. Apple removing the headphone jack from the iPhone and the HDMI from the iMac. I guess Apple fanboys will happily buy anything with an eye on it despite it being utter crap. The time where Mountain Dew held an online contest to name their new drink. Subsequently Hitler Did Nothing Wrong was voted to the #1 spot. Chia Pets, CHCHCH Chia. These are terracotta figurines used to sprout chia. Originally introduced in the late 1970s in California, USA, they are still available to this day. Botox. Botox was invented because people are vain and they wanted to paralyze their face muscles to make them look younger. It often made them look like they'd been in a horrible accident instead. However, Botox and the process of paralyzing nerve endings has become extremely useful in medicine and management of chronic pain. Botox injections are immensely helpful to people who suffer from migraine headaches, people who've had strokes, esophageal, jaw, urinary tract and bladder, and vagal disorders can be treated with Botox as well. It even can mitigate some allergy symptoms and neuropathic pain. The order of this is backwards. Botox wasn't used for cosmetic reasons until well after it had established medical uses. My mistake. Thank you.